listening to the Hit.OR.DIE podcast with hosts Jake Soldati and Chad Rothberg.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Hit.OR.DIE podcast, episode 28. We're here with a local legend. We would know him as a legend to us, our generation. For you new generation people, you'll find out why he's a legend. Jason Wood, out of McLane High School. And I know you're thinking McLane High School, a legend out of there. Well, McLane was a powerhouse back in the day. Graduated in 1988, was also drafted in the 56th round by the Toronto Blue Jays. Decided to go to Fresno City. He was drafted in 1990, his sophomore year, by the Braves in the 39th round. And then he went to Fresno State and got drafted his junior year by the A's in the 11th round as a shortstop. MLB debut on April 1st, 1998 with the A's, and made his first MLB start September 9th, 1998 with the Detroit Tigers. And he spent time in the big leagues with Oakland, Detroit, and you know him as the Miami Marlins, but they were the Florida Marlins. Had 16-year playing career with the majority of it in AAA. Jason spent the last 11 seasons as a manager with the Rangers organization, 2 years, 2009, 2010, as hitting coach for the Bakersfield Blaze, and 9 seasons managing through every level. In 2019, he was the AAA manager for the Nashville Sounds of the PCL. And now, am I allowed to say what you are yet, or do you want to?
Yeah, it's game on. We're good to go.
You are now the infield coordinator for the San Francisco Giants.
Yes, that's true.
So, Jason Wood, thank you so much for being on the show with us.
No, this is great. Thank you guys for having me.
And you need to go to Baseball Cube and check the guy's numbers. It's incredible.
Just type in your Safari browser, Google, whatever you do, Jason Wood Baseball Cube. And
we should just tweet a link out to it.
Yeah, we could do that later.
Pretty good.
But yeah, let's go right to high school. McLane, powerhouse. Describe what the Valley was like back then in going through high school. And, obviously you were good. Go through that process of getting drafted and, deciding. Obviously, you probably had colleges after you. You were a draft guy, and you chose to go to Fresno City.
Yeah, well, I mean, gosh, go back 30 years. It's, it's crazy. It just seems like it was yesterday, though. High school went by so quickly, and it was, you're right. Like you said, it was, the Valley was so competitive. The North Yosemite League that I played in at McLane, we didn't have divisions like we talked about earlier. It was straight North Yosemite League, and it was powerhouses up and down. I mean, every Tuesday and Friday, your hands were full on who you were playing, whether it be Roosevelt, Fresno High, and you always had to go through Bullard and try to get through there, and that wasn't ever easy with Mike Noakes and everybody there. It was extremely tough, and they were the cream of the crop at that time. But every week it was tough. I mean, you really had to grind to get a win. And I look back, and we were a powerhouse in McLane at that time through 85, 86, 87, 88, even 89. They were still really good when I left. But yeah, there were some good fond memories. Going back to high school and playing. It was unfortunate that I didn't get to play my senior year, and I think that's one of the reasons what steered me towards Fresno City College. Now, going back in 1988, I played the first three games of the season, and I ended up tearing my knee up. And so I dislocated my kneecap and tore my medial collateral ligament. So I finished the season, I guess you would say, on the deal that year, and rehabbed it and ended up going to City College.
From there, you played for Ron Scott.
Fairly new at the time, right? He'd only been there a couple years.
His first year.
His first year?
Yeah.
His mustache was jet black.
Oh yeah, it was great. He came in and brought a fantastic staff with him. Coming from Madera and things that he did there as a Coyote. He took over for legend in Lynn Bourdette at Fresno City College in 1989, and he brought us together, and we did some good things. He had Eric Solberg on staff as the pitching coach. Jim Ferguson worked with the outfielders. Scott Buss worked with the infielders, and Coach Scott basically did it all. And he found a way to get us all on board and do some really good things. And we won a couple CVC championships while I was there too.
I mean, you got drafted again in 90.
Yeah.
And,
sophomore year.
Yeah. Your sophomore year. Was there Any expectations that after that year? Because you had a pretty good year, I think, right? That
Yeah.
sophomore year,
Yeah, I did. I had 2 really good years at Fresno City College, but
All American both
yeah,
times.
yeah, they both were All American years, and it was a chance to play again. I did so much in high school and at that time in the '80s, and you just didn't play on travel teams. You played in American Legion baseball. You played in Babe Ruth baseball, and you played baseball all the time. And to have that taken away from me my senior year when I was getting recruited pretty highly by a lot of schools, 4-year schools at that time, it was a real setback. It was a heartbreaker. But I guess the story of my career is about persevering, and that's kind of where I just said, you know what? No, this is the love. This is what I love to do. This is what I'm gonna do. This isn't gonna stop me. Dr. Thaxter, thank God, took care of my knee. I got it taken care of, and in 1989, I went to Fresno City College and got introduced to Ron Scott. And Ron put me on the field, started as shortstop, played some third base. And from then, I just took over. And he just said, go out there and play. Do your thing. And that's one thing that just helped me get back on my feet, is a chance to play. And so I did get drafted by the Braves in 1990 after my sophomore year, which was a really good year. But I knew, speaking with my family and in my heart, I needed to go to a 4-year school because I knew that's where I was going to go to high school, and it was taken away from me. So I wanted to go to a 4-year school, and I ended up at Fresno State, and pretty good time over there.
Well, they just came off a World Series year, Fresno State, didn't they? Was it 89?
89 or 88.
88 was there. They were like the number 1 team in the country.
Oh yeah, they were really good, and it just gives me chills right now just even thinking about it, because in high school I used to go watch every Tuesday and Friday night, and get there and go watch the likes of Zosky and Eddie Zosky and Lance Sheblet and Steve Purse, and the list goes on. But I knew this is where I wanted to go. They had a good squad playing there at the time, and I was going to go to school at Fresno State, and so it ended up happening that way.
And how was your time there, Coach Bennett and Rupsich, and I think who else was there? Was Peyton there? And
oh yeah, Coach Tim Payton was coaching first base, and Coach Rupsich was at third base, and we had Coach Bennett worked, was obviously the head coach and worked with the pitchers, and these guys know what to do. They've been doing it for years. They were great people for first and foremost, and great coaches, quality coaches at the same time, and they got the most out of each and every one of us, each and every day. It was about winning the next game. It was about showing up, dedicating yourself to the program, doing what needed to be done to the program, and at the same time, you learned to be a man. There was things that you had to do correctly. If your shoes weren't worn right, if your shirt wasn't tucked in the correct way, you were going to pay for it. Not only yourself, but the team was going to pay for it, but they did it the right way. So they made good men out of us, and I truly believe that you look back, and a lot of these guys that played at Fresno State who are still playing in the major leagues and have played professional baseball, they've all had good careers because of Coach Bennett, Coach Rupchich, Coach Payton, the likes of those guys. They were fantastic.
Was there any you have any specific memories that any good stories you could share?
I do. I do, actually. A few. But I'll bring back one. It's just a great learning experience for myself and for young kids out there, too, is just being able to put certain things behind you. We had a game against Louisiana Tech one night, and in 1991, towards the end of the season, we'd already won the Big West, and we had a few more games to play before we were going to head into the regional. We're playing Louisiana Tech at home and on Friday night, and I made 3 errors and really had a tough night. I think I struck out 2 or 3 times and just made it kind of a mess of myself. And I had a good year. And Coach Bennett, we had a Saturday 1:00 game, but you're always there at 8:00 in the morning on Saturday morning. He called me in his office and he threw an eraser right at me, and I caught the thing. He goes, "See this eraser? This is it, man. You just erase what happened last night. It starts over." And right then and there, I'm like, well, I've been playing good for this guy all year. He still has belief in me. So I'm like, oh yeah, this is perfect. And so it ended up working out that he just had a sense of what to say at the right time and when to say it. He just put you in a right place. He didn't make you feel too comfortable, but he was there for you. He had your back, just like the entire staff did. So there were some fond memories there. And, we won the Big West Championship, and we ended up hosting a regional. And with the likes of Stanford coming in, and Miami at the time was ranked number 1. They came in, and we played. San Diego State was in as well. And Cal State Northridge was a team we played in the finals and had a really good game against Northridge in the finals. And Todd Johnson had a nice game-winning hit, and we celebrated on the field, and we were off to the College World Series.
How was that experience?
I mean, that's what every kid dreams of playing in or going to. And, you talk about Omaha, Nebraska and Rosenblatt Stadium at the time. It was a dream come true. And to actually believe that it really happened in Fresno was, it was great. I mean, we went through a tough year. We battled through pitching and we did a lot of good things, but being able to win that Big West Conference championship, we were co-champions with Fullerton, who was another good team. But when we saw who was coming into our regional with Stanford and Miami and Mike Frazier and these guys were just like, I mean, these guys are studs, man. It's like, what are we doing? Well, we were the third-ranked team at the time, or third seed. And we got off to a good start, and Cal State Northridge out of nowhere comes up here and starts beating teams up, beat up Miami, and we beat Stanford, and we played them in the finals, and it was just like, wow, this is it, man. We did it. We got to the pinnacle, and we were number 8 seed when we went to Omaha and beat.
I think that was that the video I put up. Did you
I
get
think
to see
it
that
was
on Twitter? I put up YouTube. I found it on YouTube.
It was the highlights.
It was the highlights from the World Series. I'll send it. I got to send it to you.
Falco was on that
Falco hit
team.
2 bombs in the World Series.
Yeah. Chris had a fantastic World Series. He hit 2 big home runs one against LSU, and I think he probably hit one against Florida State as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was Bobby Jones.
I think Jones pitched both of those games.
Well,
on like 2 days rest, 3 days rest.
What didn't Bobby do? All-American at the time, and was just fantastic. He got us to where he needed to be, and he was, the college player of the year.
Mm-hmm.
He did so many good things, and we were the first game in 91 against Florida State, ESPN game, and he just twirled the dazzle that day, man. It was unbelievable. I think we beat him 3-1 or something like that, and he struck out so many guys, and he just fantastic. I mean, he put us on his shoulders, and we just went with it, just like he did the entire year. But Chris is a good friend of mine, Falco, and he had a fantastic College World Series, and good for him. He played a great third base and hit a few home runs. But that team alone, and Robbie Seitz and Philip Romero playing second base, and myself playing shortstop, and Brant Brown playing first base, Martin Toger there, Mike Noel in center field, Vernon Spearman. These names are just like yesterday. We were all together, man. These guys are great guys.
You, Bobby Jones. Who else got drafted?
That year?
Yeah.
Myself, Bobby Jones did. I think Brant got drafted the following year, but we had Robbie Seitz was drafted
and then
too. Vernon Spearman was drafted with the Dodgers. Yeah, correct.
And then Falco the following year, I think it was.
Oh, Chris was drafted that year by the Expos as well. Yeah, Chris was drafted that year too.
Getting into that, did you have any expectations about the draft, or after that season, have any idea? I mean, how it's different. It's different now, obviously, than it was then. What was that experience?
Plus,
like
with another year, you're a junior,
right?
So it's like, is it here? I'm going to get drafted again. Do I go? I mean, we just came off that team. What do I do?
Yeah, no. So at this point in time, with being a junior and had a really good year, and knowing that my next goal, my next step was wanting to play professional baseball, wanting to play in the big leagues. So this was a time where, a decision needed to be made. And like I said, I put up good numbers throughout the course of the year. That year in 91, it was hearing the likes of, Kansas City really on board and watching all the time. They were there at the stadium and watching us play. And I had a feeling that I was told by a few different scouts that I was going to go like a 5th or 6th round by the Royals. So I got a phone call when we were in Omaha, Nebraska. We just gotten eliminated, but the draft was that day, and the Oakland A's called and told me I was drafted in the 11th round as a junior. And I was a little bit upset, but then again, it was the Oakland A's, and there was some opportunity there. I knew that there was, and my mind was made up. It was time. It was time for this myself to get started in the professional career. So I came back home from the World Series, and the scout came to my house and signed a contract, and probably about a week later, I went up to Medford, Oregon, and started my professional career with the Oakland A's.
Different time, how it is, even when I got drafted and stuff. I mean, you were saying the Royals were on you. I mean, do they have, like, how did they come about talking to you at games, or like, we're really looking at you? How did it work back then?
It was funny. I would get phone calls at night after practice would be over with the Fresno State. I'd go home and just, there's no cell phones in, and it would just, the phone would be ringing, and it would ring, and it'd be a scout, asking how things were, how I felt, what do you think about, coming and playing for our organization, and you just had to sit and listen to it, and wonder what they were saying and hoping it was going to go okay. But the Royals called a lot, so I really thought that they were going to be the team that were going to draft me. I had no idea the A's were on me. They're out in left field somewhere watching me play, I guess, because but that's the way a lot of teams are. You know, the teams that really want you, they're obviously not going to tell other guys that they're on you. So the A's did it, and I was excited. I got to work out with Walter Weiss and Mike Bordick, these guys in spring training, and I'm just like, wow. I thought I was a good infielder and had good hands until I got around these guys and just learned a whole different thing.
Were you ready to Fresno State prepare you for that? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
There was no question. I still tell people to this day that what Coach Bennett and Coach Rupchich and Peyton did, these guys made men out of you, man. You had to be accountable for everything you did, and we were. You know, there were no excuses. Coach Bennett, I'll never forget, he would sit on home plate and put me out a shortstop and just hit a fungo 6 feet to my left and to my right and just put it just out of reach where I really had to work until I was just like dog beat. But he did it, and he mentally grinded you and got you stronger each and every day. And to get to the next level and to start playing professional baseball, and I went up to Medford, Oregon and played for the Southern Oregon A's. We had a lot of college guys on that team too. But I knew that what Coach Bennett did really got me ready for where I needed to be, and that was the next step.
And then you grinded a couple years, and then we were talking before.
Yeah.
You know, everything said, 97 was a breakout year, and it was fantastic. But I was looking at your numbers, and I was telling you, I thought 96 was where it started, because 96 was a really good year. Can you kind of talk about, do you remember that mental, like where you got to those seasons where things just kind of kicked into gear?
Well, yeah, 96, it was a year I was pretty pissed off, tell you the truth, because in 1995, I was my first year in AAA. And so going into spring training in 96, I was pulled into the office by our director of player development, and he told me that I guess I needed a little more maturing to go on as far as my fielding and hitting, so I needed to go back to AA after playing a year in AAA. So that really hit home, and I took a step back, and, I can sit around and sulk and be upset about this and really halter my career, or I can take a step forward and move on and prove myself. So what I did that year is I got a little bit stronger, and I went out and hit about 20 home runs that year, a little bit upset, and I think that really kickstarted me back again where I needed to be.
Playing for Oakland, you have a great year. You come back. I mean, were there any thoughts of like this could be?
Well, you broke camp in 98
in
with
98
Oakland.
with Oakland.
Yeah, so that's funny. Another story there too is I did break camp in '98 with the big club, but it wasn't before I'd been sent out in spring training at a major league camp, and I was the first cut in major league camp. And they told me to go back to the minor leagues. The Oakland A's did. This was after I re-signed to go play with the Oakland A's again, but they said, you weren't ready yet, so they sent me back to minor league camp, a week into major league camp. So I go down there after I had a great year in '97, and I'm just like, what is going on, man? Is this really for me? But it just so happened that there were two injuries, and Miguel Tejada and Kurt Abbott were both shortstops. These guys both got hurt right away in spring training. I was back up in big league camp and had a really good spring training the rest of the camp because these two guys were hurt. I made the team out of camp. I guess by default because two guys were hurt, but I busted my tail and went back and played and had a good spring training. They saw it. They liked it. Art Howe was the manager at the time. Says, Woody, we want you. I wasn't a starter. Rafael Bornegar was starting shortstop. I was there for a week and then got sent back down again. So, yeah, I mean, it felt like a lot of my career was on an elevator. I was up and I was down. I was here, I was there. But at the end of the day, I look back on it and it was about, persevering and really, really getting after it and knowing that I still had it in me each and every year and still wanted to play. And at the end of the day, numbers don't lie. You put up good numbers, they're going to have you back. And so that's kind of the way it went.
And then you get traded
that season
to Detroit. Now, what's your thought process on that? Were you happy?
Yeah, I was really happy because I was, this was another one door closes, another door opens, and they kept me on the 40-man roster when they sent me down. The Oakland A's did. So, okay, that's a good thing. There's some other teams out there that are interested. This Jason Woods putting up decent numbers. He's still on the 40-man roster. Maybe he can play in the big leagues for us. Well, they wanted to trade Bip Roberts from Detroit to Oakland, and they traded me from Oakland to Detroit. So it was a good deal. It was another experience a new team, so to say. So I went to Toledo, Ohio, of all places, and played in AAA for a few months, or about 3 weeks there, and then it was called to the big leagues in Detroit, and made a start there. So that was good.
Yeah, right towards I think it was September. Right?
Yeah, it was September.
And then what was that? Getting recalled up, like
it was cool. It was really cool because
obviously you don't take any of those moments for granted.
No, not one of them.
And that's obvious through looking at your career. You talk about persevering.
Well, the feeling of breaking camp. A lot of guys, they just get called up. And, a lot of guys we've had on in the stories, you actually broke camp. So going back to that, what was that feeling like? Like that your dream just came true. And then tell us what it was like getting
because Baseball Cube doesn't tell you by default. So don't you can't say that. No, you said, you paid your dues and worked your way to get there.
Right.
You earned your spot.
So in 98, it was I don't know if you guys probably know this, but the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland A's, they play a base series at the end of spring training each and every year. Well, I was always on those trips to go to those games, and the guy that didn't make the team, whatever. But this year, that year, I went and played. I knew I was close to making the team. So we got done with the game on Sunday, the base series game in Oakland. And I didn't know where I was going, if I was going to Edmonton, Canada, AAA, or if I was staying with the big league club. So I went into my locker, kind of was packing my bags up and just kind of waiting around. I got a tap on the shoulder and said, come into my office. And Art Howe says, Art Howe and Billy Bean were in there and says, listen, Jason, you see what's happening. There's been a few injuries. You've had a good spring training. Congratulations, your first major league call up. You made our squad. So that right then, that set home. That was really cool. It didn't last too long before I got sent down, but that day to be able to walk out of that clubhouse, to see my family, to give them high fives and hugs and let them know that I made that team was really cool.
Did you feel like it's finally paid off? Like it just relief?
I did. I did, but it was still, I was always looking over my shoulder, never really comfortable because I didn't know how long it was going to last. I was going to enjoy every minute of it and be ready when that time come, if it did come to play. And one thing that was really cool is I even got to talk about a really personal coach in my career, and Merv Carter, my high school baseball coach. He followed me throughout my entire career and still to this day does. Well, he made the trip to Oakland on opening day when we played Boston that night and was able to come down and watch me actually play a little bit that night too. So that was really special to see him there for that. It was really cool.
He's still out there grinding too.
Yeah. Is he? Can we get him on this thing?
Oh, Merv would love to get on.
Heck
this.
Yeah,
he'd talk your arm off on this show.
That's what it's for.
He's fantastic.
We'll just book it for a morning and let it roll.
Oh yeah.
Just hit the record button.
He's had some good ones, and that's for sure.
And so you made your first start in '98 at Detroit against the White Sox.
Yeah.
That moment, you finally get that moment. I think was
this is when it really kicked in because it was in Oakland. I was there for just a few days, maybe a week, if that, and got to play defense one night on a blowout game, opening night or something like that, and didn't play after that. But getting traded to Detroit and getting a chance to get out, they weren't very good at the time, and they were probably at the bottom of the standings, but they needed some help, infield help. Well, we went to Chicago playing the White Sox, and I got the start as a DH in September, and got my first base hit off of Jim Parquet, the left-hander out of UCLA, I believe he was, but he was a top round choice for the White Sox.
They're supplemental, I think I saw, yeah.
So that was. That was extremely interesting and pretty cool. To start as a DH, which I hadn't really done much in my career at all, but I had Dean Palmer playing third base and Damon Easley playing second base, Tony Clark playing first base, and the shortstop was outstanding as well. But to be able to get in there and to start as a DH was pretty cool. And sure enough, I get my first hit. Well, my second at bat that night, I foul a ball off my shin, and I thought that was the end. I really did, but I was so amped up and so fired up that it wasn't going to hold me back. I made an out. I went to the training room and they looked at my shin and they said, "I don't know if you can go, Woody." I'm like, no, you're taping this thing up. You're not pulling me out of this game. It's not going to happen. At the time that you put on a shin guard, I should have had one on before, lefty throwing cutters and sinkers, but was able to get through that and move on to the next city, which was Boston. And that's where I hit my first major league home run.
That's what I wanted to get into, honestly. And then, so I was telling you I couldn't find it, but your first big league home run was?
It was in Fenway over the monster off of Pete Sherrick, a left-hander.
I mean, if you hit one big league home run, that's where you'd want it to be, right?
Over the Munster?
Yeah.
Yeah, over the Munster.
Or Yankee Stadium? I mean, can you?
I don't know. I'd rather hit it over the Munster.
That's what I think. I think I would agree.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you.
Can you still remember that trip around the bases?
It was quick. It was really quick. But the cool thing about it was a 1-0 ball game in the 7th inning, and I was DH in that game as well. So, I guess I wasn't good defensively, but no, actually I was. Got a chance to play against left-handers, and that's something I had to hit lefties, and I did hit lefties pretty well. And so I was DHing that night and was able to hit one over the monster and tie the ball game up in the 7th inning. I believe it was a 1-1 game after I hit it, and then we ended up winning the game that night. So that was pretty ecstatic. It was really cool. Got the ball back the next day. I was fortunate enough to have our trainer's wife who was there. They had one of the bat boys go up, and they got the ball back, and she calligraphied it really nice and put my name on it and everything. So I still have it. It's really cool.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Is that right next to your first hit?
Yeah, most definitely. She did the same with that one as well.
That's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even. It's just I'm getting like excited about it, and it's not even me.
Yeah, these stories are the best though. They never get old. We've had a few of them, and it's always fun to hear.
Boston was something at the time. It was really nice, and what was really cool. There were three lefties thrown in that series. We had a 3-game series, and I played 2 out of the 3 days. So I faced Sherrick that night on a Friday. It's a 4:00 start, which is, kind of cool. I like day baseball anyways. And my father was in town, so he got to see it for the first time. He got to see me play and got to see me hit my first home run, which was really cool. And then the next day, Steve Avery, who used to be with the Braves, was with the Red Sox at the time. He was throwing the next day. So I got to start at first base. Tony Clark got a day off. I played first base. I think I got a hit or two there, but it was good. It was a good roll, good run there in '98, and it was that was fun.
And then what transpired to get you down to Florida?
So got done playing in '98 with the Tigers, in '99 as well. Was up and down a little bit in '99 with the Tigers. Broke my wrist in spring training, so and like I said, one thing, I date back here a little bit. In 1999, I did play in the last game at Tiger Stadium, and that was something else too, because that old stadium has got a lot of memories, a lot of history, and being a part of that was really, really nice. But my time ended there in Detroit. I went on to play with the Pirates for 2 years in AAA in Nashville. When I got done with that, I came home, and I didn't put up too good numbers in Nashville, and I didn't know what was going to happen after that. Well, somehow in 2002, I signed with the Marlins and started my long career with the Marlins, and went to AAA in Calgary in 2002 with them, and put some power numbers up there, and didn't get a call up, but just got a call the next year and signed with them again, and then we went to Albuquerque. So that's kind of where my career started with the Marlins, and it took off from there.
And when you got to the big leagues there, I mean, they were just an expansion team in, was it 98 when they were?
I think it was,
or 90. Was it 95?
May have been.
I thought it was the late 90s.
Yeah, it was the late 90s.
So they were a fairly new organization. What was it like playing? I mean, we see how the Miami Marlins are now. They're not good fan base or anything. How was it playing in Florida? Like, if you had to go Oakland, Detroit, Florida, I mean, what fan base is wise? Did you like Florida?
Yeah, I mean, I'm partial to Florida because that's where most of my time in the big leagues was, and that's where I got most of my playing time. So I think that I look back now, and if did they draw the best? No, they played in the huge stadium at Joe Robbie at the time, and their TV revenue was up. Nobody wanted to come to the game, but they all wanted to stay home and watch the game. I guess that's kind of the way it is there in Florida. But now they've got this beautiful new stadium. But the fans that were there and supported us were pretty nice. But like I said, most of my playing time was there in Florida, you know, for 06, 07, and then a little bit in 08. But I didn't even think I was going to play in 06. I mean, after 06, the 07 season, date back going to 06, I was almost done. If I didn't get called up in 06, I was taking it to the house. I was done playing baseball. I'd done everything I possibly could, I thought, and it was time. Joe Girardi was the manager at the time in 06, manager of the year that year as well. And he called down late August to our AAA club and said, I need a right-handed bat off the bench. And I was honestly, it was our last game of the year. My wife had come to the stadium in Albuquerque, New Mexico to see me play the last game in Albuquerque. I was done. I was going home. I got a call in the office by our manager, Dean Trainer, that day, and he says, Woody, we got 2 more games left here in Albuquerque. You're not playing either one of them. I said, no, I'm playing. My wife's here. I'm playing. This is it, Dino. I'm done. He goes, no, you're not playing because you're going to Florida. They need you up there. Girardi called. He needs a right-handed bat off the bench. I hadn't been in the big leagues in a while, okay, since 99. This is a long time. So I went up there and I think I hit 340 that year in 06, and had a good time and did really well for Girardi, and we had a good experience. Got a game-winning hit the last game of the season against Philadelphia, and then the next year I was a non-roster invited to camp with the Marlins and made the club. So that's where a lot of it went.
And I did see, so you got drafted as a shortstop.
Yeah.
And I thought I saw, like, you played almost every position in your career. I think except it said center and left, or right. Center and right.
You caught too?
Yeah, it said he caught a couple innings.
Yeah.
Was that accurate?
That's absolutely correct. I mean, the one that I wanted to play more than just about all of them was center field, but obviously I didn't have the speed to do it. I don't know how I didn't get out there in a pinch at one time and somebody just didn't stick me out there. But yeah, it was center and right field that I didn't play. I did do a little bit of catching when I was with Detroit because Lance Parrish, who was the big league third base coach at the time, they needed it was an easier spot for me to make the big league club if they had an emergency catcher. So I got to work with Lance Parrish of all people. He was a fantastic catcher back in the day, and he taught me how to catch, man. And I caught a few games in AAA, and I never caught in the big leagues, but it was really cool to have that extra tool that I needed if need be. So yeah, I did catch in Toledo, Ohio, and for the Mud Hens a little bit. So,
and you spent a lot of time in professional baseball. Were there any like, oh man, that's so and so? Did you have any like moments of like
a superstar moment?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm kind of like a boring dude. I was so locked in all the time. It was just, I mean, I guess there was. Anytime you had a rehab guy come throw against you, it was pretty cool. I mean,
but even in the bigs, like standing on second base, you're just like, am I really standing next to this guy?
No, I mean, in 07 playing it at AT&T ballpark, and I got a start on a Sunday against the Giants, and I'm playing first base, and that's when Barry's going through his deal, right? And I think he's really close to 3,000 hits too at the time, and he hits a ball, he skies a ball. I'm playing first base. I'm playing so far back. I'm on the grass. Our entire infield's on the grass. We're way back, obviously. We weren't shifting really that big at that time, so everybody just deep as possibly could be. He skies a ball, hits it right over the pitcher's mound. I mean, it is a mile high, and we all go for it. Well, nobody calls it. It falls. I think he hits off of somebody. I was like Danny Ugla's glove. And Barry gets over to first base, and mind you, at this time, he's, 10 home runs away from breaking, the all-time home run record, and he's standing at first base, and they scored at an error. And I'm standing there. We had a pitching change, and he looks at me, and he goes, man, can you believe that? They gave that ball an error? And I go, man, I'll tell you what, I wanted nothing to do with it. I told Barry, I said, I wanted nothing to do with that thing. So, but yeah, I was just a moment to where, like, I'm standing next to him, and here he's like 10 home runs away from breaking the all-time record, and he's worried about this one infield base hit that he didn't get at the time. It was like, wow, really? But
it's gonna affect his batting average.
Yeah, but no, that was a man. That was a man child right there.
See, that'd be fun to be first baseman. You always get to have those chats with guys like that.
Yeah. The next,
although that's why I would never made it ever. I'm wanting to talk, and this guy's trying to get the game in.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
I did pitch,
Well, that was next.
And then when we get to playing first base, and Chipper Jones came over to first base the night after I pitched, and he says, "Man, he goes, you're the toughest guy we'd faced in a while." And so
in 07, and I don't know if you know this, there is video of your inning on YouTube.
Oh, I know, I have it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
we'll have to post that.
11 pitches.
It was a clean inning, 3 up, 3 down. And yeah, we'll definitely post it. But
well, he's 4 innings, career, AA and AAA, 4 strikeouts, 6 walks though.
Oh, but what's the ERA?
Oh, I didn't even see that. I think it's 0. It's
touche, my
That's
friend.
all that matters, right?
Yeah, that's it, man. Nobody crossed that plate. No, in 2007, though. I mean, I'll never forget it. Obviously, I was sitting on the bench that night and I wasn't playing, and then Freddie Gonzalez, our manager, comes down and we're getting our tails kicked, man. Atlanta's just putting it to us. It's the first game of a series, I believe. I don't think we want to go through our pitching staff much more. We've gone through 3 or 4 guys that night, and he walks down to the end of the bench and he goes, "What do you got, an inning for me?" And I looked at him. I'm like, "Yeah, I do.
I got more than one.
I do.
Let's go."
So, I take all the tape off the wrist. I'm ready to pinch hit that night. I know I'd have to do that. I take the tape off the wrist. He goes, "All right, go down the bullpen, get loose. You'll pitch the ninth." All right, no problem. So I go trotting down to the bullpen in Miami, which is way down the right field line. We're on the first base dugout, and I go trotting down there, and I get towards the end of right before I go into the bullpen, I see the bullpen stand up, and they're so happy to see me. They want nothing to do with throwing that night against Atlanta with what they were doing to them. So they were happy that I was going to go in the game, and they didn't have to go in the game. I threw like 10 or 15 warm-up pitches, went out, and Miguel Oliva was catching, came to the mound and says, "What do you got, Woody?" I said, "Fastball, curveball, and knuckleball." And I threw 11 pitches and got through it. It was pretty cool.
Did you ever throw the knuck?
I did. I threw 2 of them, and if you watch the video, one was a strike, wasn't called. It was pretty good. Yeah, it really was. I'm not tooting my own horn. This thing was a pretty good pitch. I've got it on video. It was pretty nice.
You were heading back to the dugout in the clip, and I could see you kind of looking around like, I think the third out was a fly ball. Did you get the ball? Was that what you were trying to find?
No, Alfredo Almanzega made a catch. I mean, I faced Kelly Johnson, Ryan McCann, and Jeff Francoeur. And these guys took gangster hacks on me. One almost hit Joe Borcher made an outstanding play in left center field for me up against the wall. Yep. And I had 2 other pop-ups after that because I was throwing so slow and, they couldn't hit whatever. They're on the front foot. But, the third baseman made a catch, and I just come trotting off the field, and I really didn't know what was up. But Dontrell Willis met me on the top step and was pretty happy, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's funny. That's a good one.
Did you find out how hard you were throwing it all? Or no?
Oh, I was checking the radar every time, and it was no more than 52, 53 miles an hour.
Oh, so you didn't even try. You didn't even try.
Oh no. But
you didn't want to risk injury.
No, at that point I didn't want to, and I knew that if I tried, and I've seen it because I've managed these kids all the time, and I see position players go out and try to throw hard, and all it is you're not throwing hard, and these guys are just going to tee off on you. So slow is better. The slower you throw is better.
In 08, was it 08? You finished your playing career.
I did.
And before we get, because it looks like, it right away was right into managing.
Or coaching.
Coaching. Do you look back and the last couple of years, you said you were done, was it 06?
Yeah.
You just mentally, you were done. What pushed you even more for 2 more years? Or 2 seasons?
That taste of the big leagues, that does a lot.
Yeah.
Somebody believing in me, a big-time manager who was manager of the year that year, and Joe Girardi making a call down and telling me that they needed somebody off the bench to hit, and they had trust, and they knew that I could do it. They just didn't have an opportunity for me at the time as far as making a roster spot, but they finally did it in September. So that added 2 more years to my career, basically, because what I did in September of 06, the numbers I put up were really good for the chance I got to play. And I said, I want to do it again. Joe wasn't there. Freddie Gonzalez came in, and so I went to spring training and had a killer spring training, man. I led the team in hitting and home runs that year, and that's when I made the team in 07. So I contributed a lot of that to it, is just giving an opportunity, knowing that somebody believed in me and wanted me to play.
So in '07, or I'm sorry, in '08, was there an opportunity to come back after, or did you decide, like, I just don't, I mean, that was a long career.
Yeah, no, I truly believe that if I wanted to come back and play, I think that the Marlins would have had me back. I just knew that I was physically, it was tough. It was really tough. I was 38 years old at the time. I was playing up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where the altitude is above 5,000 feet. It's these nicks and bruises that you have take so much longer to heal because of how high you are, lack of oxygen. And so it was tough to recover. And my bat speed wasn't there like I used to have it because I was known to have, I had quick hands. I had really quick hands, and I wasn't getting beat on fastballs. Well, at that time in '08, I was starting to get beat on pretty good. Fastballs I shouldn't get beat on. And so I think just the physicality part of it all took place. And just to have to grind and get through and to try to get back to the big leagues, I don't think it was really worth it. The new chapter in my career needed to start, and I knew what it wanted to be. And so it did.
Yeah, just going to how that. Did you ever think about coming back here and maybe coaching in the Valley, or you knew you wanted to be in pro ball coaching?
I wasn't really sure. It wasn't until our '91 team at Fresno State got put into the Hall of Fame, and we had a nice big dinner at Pardini's one night and a banquet, and they put us all in there, and we all had a good time. And a good friend of mine, and Brant Brown, who stopped his playing career and was coaching at the time he was a hitting coach at the time in AA with the Rangers. And I didn't know, it wasn't too far off that after the season we had this induction, so I didn't know what I was going to do, what I want to do, when opportunity came about. And he says, Woody, we got a position in Bakersfield to be a hitting coach. Be a good transition for you if you wanted to do it. So I interviewed for that, and I got that position. And I was a hitting coach for 2 years, and it worked out okay. I really liked it. I thought that maybe I wanted to manage. I've always wanted to manage, and I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. And but I thought that after playing, I could just go right into managing. Well, I wasn't ready. I mean, it was a whole different ball game behind closed doors when you're on player development and you're on the coaching side of things. So the transition of being a player, going into being a coach to being a hitting coach was fine for me. And then 2 years into that, enjoyed it, but I knew I was ready for the next step, and they made an offer to me to be a manager, and kind of went with it from there.
And how was that time? I mean, like you said, it's different. You're at the limitations too, with the clubs ahead of you, and
oh no, yeah.
How does that work? How did you do there?
It was good. It was I've always, like we talked about earlier, I don't want full control of the game, but I felt like I needed to have a lot of control of the game. That's kind of just my my mindset is I want not just a specific 10 of guys to work out in the cage and to do my charts on this hitters. I wanted to run the bullpen, the pitchers, be a part of that, and I wanted to run the game. I want to have control of it and see how these guys do. And so that's where I wanted to be into managing, and I got the opportunity to manage in our A club. We'd moved out of Bakersfield and went to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, of all places, which was great. Yeah. And so I was able to manage there for 3 years and really enjoyed every bit of it.
And I think with your career, it definitely, I've thought, would benefit any club, with your experience going up, down, and being able to help these guys, prepare them for that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that really had a lot to do, and still to this day does. I've seen and done a lot of it. I've been in these guys' shoes, and I know what they're going through at certain times of not being called up or having to deal with releases or being a part of this, what the travel's like in the Pacific Coast League, because I did the Pacific Coast League as a player for 12 years, I think. So I knew going to manage in the Pacific Coast League was something that was I needed to be there for those guys because I'd seen and done it, and I think they really appreciated that.
Was it easier for you to, like you said, you've done it and been there. Do you remember any conversations that might have helped a guy that was down, maybe have him in your office? Is there any specific moment? I don't know if you want to say names or anything, but that it helped them jump to the next level?
I think there's a few guys that are in Texas right now. And, I've had Joey Gallo for a few years, and I had him in AA, and I had him in AAA. And he went through some rough times, not so much the physicality part of it, but the mental side of it, thinking that he was, at sometimes better than he really was. Well, you don't really realize what they're going through until you get to know the person, the individual. I talk about this all the time. It's not the athlete. It's knowing the person and getting to know them and what's going on in their world, what's going on in their life. And until you do that, you're not going to get everything out of them that you really want. And I think that Joey and I got a relationship that was tough at first, but it ended up being a really good relationship. The respect factor was fantastic. And to this day, I still keep in touch with them and contact, and we're happy to see each other all the time. But he was one that stood out, and Willie Calhoun was another one. He was he's with the Rangers right now and doing really good things with Texas. When he had some tough times. At times he thought that he was better than he really was, but he had to take a step back, and I'll give him 24 hours to sulk and pout when he gets sent down, and then we get back to business and get after it. So it's a father figure type deal to the kids, and just getting to know them and understanding them and seeing what makes them tick. So they have to know that you care. And the minute they know you care, you get the most out of them, and that's how it is.
Yeah, that's got to be hard too, because you're dealing with, a pretty different extreme in emotions. With a guy being sent down, and then on the other hand, you got a kid that's coming up from Double A, and it's like you've got a super excited guy, and you got a guy real bummed out, and you've got to try to mesh all this together. Yeah, and for who knows how long.
Yeah, that's the ticker. I mean, that's the thing. And managing in AAA, you've got a roster that's revolving all the time, and we have over 240 transactions a year. So I'm getting guys coming in and out of this clubhouse left and right. But the minute they come in, they know that this group is not going to be messed with, and this group is a united group, and they do good things. So controlling that clubhouse is the biggest thing you can possibly do as a manager. I mean, all the other stuff that takes place on the field, obviously you have your hands on some of it. These guys have got talent, otherwise they wouldn't be here. And there's just no room for people to come in a clubhouse and ruin a clubhouse, because you spend most of your time in that clubhouse. The players do, the coaches do. And so it's like a home to you, and everybody's got to be on the same page. And if you have one cancer, it really ruins things for everybody. And that's one thing that you just don't have. We don't put up with that. You're easily replaceable. And I think that's a message that you get across, and these guys understand it. I want them coming through that clubhouse each and every day, knowing that they're wanted, and that they're here to work and work right and work correctly. And I think that's how it goes.
One thing we've talked about, especially with all these manager moves going on right now, it's hard for outsiders to be like, he seems like a good manager. We wonder what must go on in the clubhouse for these moves to be made.
Specifically, Gabe Kapler was one we've talked about.
Yeah.
Because on the outside, I was like, I think he's a good manager. I don't think he had enough time with that specific group. And at that level, with that roster and the money that's being made from those players, what is he supposed to do?
I mean, he's not going to.
But we don't know. I mean,
he's not going to sit hard. He's not going to do this stuff. So there's only so much he can control. But you being in minor league, clubhouses, big league clubhouses, and now as a manager, what's it like with like day-to-day basis? Like, do you have team meetings after games or, that kind of stuff? And I kind of want to know what your thoughts are about, what the big league managers do too in those situations.
At the end of the day, here's how it is, man. You're only as good as your players really are. Okay. And it's what you get out of these players is the most important thing. And you find out early on, whether it be spring training, early on in the season, what makes your club tick. What kind of club do you have? Do you have a young club? Do you need to stay on them? You need to ride them a little bit more than you would veterans. Do you have a veteran type club where you just kind of let these guys go and do their thing, give them the information that they need, be there for them? I've had both of those. And I think the biggest thing is just understanding where you're at with them, giving them as much information as you possibly can. I know in AAA and in Round Rock, where I was for 4 years, in Nashville this year, we would advance on the opposing team before each series. So, for instance, in my office, I would advance with the infielders and make sure that we're on the same page on. We got to shift Chad Rotherford. He's a big-time pull hitter. We make sure that right-hander, left-hander is where we need to be. So, once again, that communication that you have through each and every one of these players, I've got you allot your coaching staff to do a lot of things too. My pitching coach takes care of the pitchers. Obviously, I have a bullpen coach, and Eric Gagne last year, who did a very good job with the bullpen. So, making sure that you've got all the data and everything that these guys need and putting it together and, putting them in the right position, in the right place. But at the end of the day, it's what you're doing and how these guys perform. And if they perform well, it's going to go and just going to kind of see how things are. If they're not performing well, their numbers aren't good, well, it's going to be called upon somebody to fix it. And maybe that's a situation with Cap. He was a great player. He's a great person. He's a great man. He's probably still learning how to manage. And I think that he's going to create a good culture there in San Francisco. He can do some good things, and I think he'll be fine.
It might be a good situation just with some of the younger players that they've been pulling up. You know what I mean? It's fresh for everybody.
Yeah, it's not like he's not going into a veteran.
Right.
Really, we don't know where Bumgarner's going to be. Obviously, Posey, but other than that, there's not really a big time veteran leadership for the ball club. So it could work out. But like being in a big league clubhouse, how often does a manager come in and have a talk like after a game or like losing? Like how do those go?
Well, you got specific managers. I mean, that are different. I've played for a few, and I haven't had too many that have lost it. As far as the club, but you got to know the pulse of your club. And I think I could talk about is knowing, okay, is this the time? And that makes a good manager, man. That's the person where 2 or 3 games in a row you lost. Well, why did we lose? Maybe the travel was tough. You're not looking for excuses, but you know what these guys are going through. Now, if you're starting to see guys aren't playing hard, if you're starting to see guys maybe not giving the effort that they need to a pregame, maybe showing up late, which is a non-negotiable in my eyes. But if you start to see things like that, then it's time to hit these guys and hit them right. Kind of wake them up a little bit. And I think the good managers are able to do that. They're able to find out the right time to really jumpstart these guys again. And sometimes, that's some tough love is what you need. And calling guys out in certain times is something that you need. Not all managers do it. I've had managers just sit back and just let it go. And then you kind of wonder, well, what's he really thinking over there? And maybe that's what he does want. He wants you to kind of wonder what he's thinking. I like to, I hit him hard early in the season, let him know what I expect, what my expectations are. And if those aren't met, then it's time to, address the ball club and find out what's going on. And like I said earlier, the guys that want to play, they'll play, and they're going to play for you. They want to play for you, not only you, but the organization. The guys that don't want to play, the guys that are pissed off about being in AAA, they'll weed themselves out. They're very irreplaceable. We've got guys in AA come up there and take their place right away. So to answer your question, know the pulse of your club, and I think a lot of the good managers do that.
And you were talking about all this new age we were talking about before. You're an old school guy, but obviously with all these analytics and everything going on, how has it been for you to adapt to that? And how much of it did you use as a manager?
It's still learning. It's a learning curve for not only myself, but the players too, because the players you can't really get anything by them. You've got phones and data and everything these days, and they're all about numbers. Our game is based on numbers. You're getting paid off of the results that you do, what your numbers are like. So they're going to believe what they read and what they see because of numbers. So it's I guess as a manager, as coaches, it's our job to translate the things that are right, the things that are corrective, the things that are going to work for them, to them to make sure it's right. Not all data, not all the analytic stuff works for everybody. The pitching side of things. Am I looking for a guy that's got a tremendous spin rate and is a sinker ball pitcher? What good is that going to do? All that's going to do is flatten out his fastball. He's going to get hit a lot harder. So certain things work for certain guys. You got a guy that hits the ball the other way, he hits behind runners. Is he worried about his launch angle? Obviously not. But if these kids read a lot of this stuff and believe a lot of it, then they're going to jump on board for that. So that you got to be that mediator to make sure that they're getting the right information and they're using it correctly. And that's where we come into play, is our translating it correctly to them. And so learning a lot of this stuff and filtering the stuff that's good, that's bad, that's going to work for your club. That's a tough part of it. Is doing that. So
we heard from Luplo, and then somebody else said something that who was it we just had on? I thought a lot of the guys like those hot sheets, or it's like the I know Luplo,
Heat maps.
the heat maps with the zones and all that kind of stuff. Is that big?
Oh yeah,
That was Connor Rognan.
Yeah, Brogdon said that. Yeah, they're looking down in the bullpen.
Yeah.
When he was in AAA this year, he said he's on the iPad looking at heat maps of who he might be facing and stuff.
Absolutely. So. I mean, all the information that you need is there for in every organization. We've got it. We've got iPads and dugouts that the guys can go to and find out. Instead of looking down in the bullpen and trying to find out what their relievers got, boom, it's right there in front of us. We can see his last 5 outings and what he's done. So everything's there for him. Is it too much? At times it is. I've seen guys in the dugout with their heads locked in these charts and not watching the 5 or 6 warm-up pitches this guy just threw. Yeah, this chart says that he throws 98 and he's got a fantastic slider. Well, if you look at the last 5 or 10 pitches he just threw warming up and he hasn't thrown one slider for a strike, but your head's in the dugout looking at this, it doesn't necessarily work. So
because he could have thrown the night before. You know what I mean? He could be.
Yeah, and we know. And
he might go up there sitting slider. He hasn't thrown for a strike and he swings at one in the dirt. Or he's just not sitting fastball. He gets blown by him, pitch one.
Yeah, and that's the thing is at the end of the day, your eyes don't lie. And I think that one thing that gets taken out of context is watching and seeing what's working that day for that guy and what isn't working for him. It may say what he's doing in these charts and what he tends to go to. That's something that's really good. Is what are his tendencies? Does he go to his fastball early in the count? Is he just finish off the slider? Those are good things to know. But at the end of the day, you got to find out what's working for him that night.
Well, now getting into the Giants, you're still a coach, but now you're an infield coordinator for the entire organization. We talked about it briefly. You're excited. You're really excited about this opportunity and getting a chance to do this. And if you could take us into a little bit more of what you're going to do as a whole, come spring training and through the season.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a new chapter. It's another after the 30 plus years that I've been in this game and have been an infielder throughout my entire career and a hitting coach for a couple of years, and then the last 10 years as a manager. I thought that this would be something that I would enjoy. I may be able to spend a little more time at home with my family. I'll be out on the road for about 80 days throughout the course of the year with every minor leaguer in the Giants organization. And I will run their infield program. I'm an infield coordinator. I will go to spring training with a plan for each and every one of these kids. I've got a list of prospects that I'm on top of right now and looking at their fielding percentage and it's kind of digesting a little bit of things and what need to be done. But it's just putting in my program as far as how infield goes with each and every one of these minor leaguers in the Giants organization. So this opportunity is going to be very nice.
Will you be at spring training with the?
Yeah, I think
you'll be up there too. Won't you?
I'll be in Scottsdale. We have a mini camp that runs from the 14th of January to the 31st, and I'll be with our minor leaguers. And then for a couple of weeks, I'll be in big league camp with the major league infielders and just kind of watching the Crawfords and watching these Longorias and see how they work and just kind of picking their brain a little bit. And then, I've got a pretty good program for these young kids and going to put them to work and just get, the foundation set for each and every one of these guys. And they haven't had an infield coordinator for the last few years there. So I'm looking forward to this and kind of breaking in and getting to know each and every one of these kids and finding out what works for them. But, at the end of the day, you got to have a foundation. You got to work from the ground up as an infielder. You got to use your legs. They're so important. And just these points I want to get across to them and just kind of get them going and see where it goes.
Being an infield guy, I mean, I played first, so people probably don't think that's an athletic position. But
no, it most definitely
first base is the most important position in the infield. No, it's in every play. But
absolutely.
I was fortunate to play pro ball. The Latin guys, it's just the way they field. It's different. And you actually, as an American guy, you actually try to pick up tendencies they do because they just make it look so good and smooth. And is that something how you're going to have to actually implement into your program that you're talking about? Because they're just a different animal. I've seen guys, they field this way.
Yeah.
On the video, they field, almost like you're clapping your hands.
Yeah.
They field like that rather than the old school way. And but they do it so good and so smooth, and you're just like, you try it and you're freaking take one to the cup, and so what's that going to be like, getting a feel for the Latin guys and the American guys, and just because some guys move differently than others.
Oh no, it's a different world down there, and how they field the baseball. I mean, they're fielding right now as we're speaking right now. There's 15 of the guys in our organization down there throwing a ball against the wall and working and finding a way to do it. I mean, usually the South American kids have very good hands, and they play on maybe not so fortunate fields that we're able to play on. But they're constant, man. They love fielding it, and they do a ton of good things. And some of the best ones, and Omar Vizquel and Roberto Alomar, these guys are fantastic. So I think the translation of them coming over here and working with myself, me going over there to the Dominican and working with their infielders as well too. I'll learn from them as well as they will learn from me. I'll take bits and pieces of what they have, and try to fine tune it. The flash, take a lot of the flash out of it if I can. But you can't take all the flash out of everybody, because that's just some of their normalcies and what they need to do. You don't want to stiffen anybody up. You want to make sure they're constant, that they're staying in their legs and using their feet. I mean, as an infielder, I know it sounds crazy, but the most important thing when it comes to fielding is staying in your legs and moving your feet. The minute you have dead feet, that's when your hands stiffen up. And I think that's something that I'll get across to a lot of these players, and just kind of create that foundation. But translating some of the Latin players over to what we have here, at the end of the day, it's about getting the outs and getting that team off the field into the dugout. So we'll make sure that we're on board and doing the right things, that they're in the right positions where they need to be as far as cutoffs and relays. There's so much goes into it than just fielding a baseball, and I think that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, I bet you're happy. You got a fungo and a glove.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and an arm, because I know I have to throw a lot of batting practice like I did as a manager, but I'm fine with that because I really enjoy it. So,
what would you tell a kid that has his eyes on this big MLB prize and the dreams to get there? What kind of encouragement could you give a 15-year-old kid?
I think the biggest thing is staying within yourself. And not trying to do too much, doing the little things correct will get you to the next step, and not worrying about what your phone says about the certain things that are going on out there. It's staying in your zone and doing the little things that not only help yourself but help your team out. Play the game the right way. Play it hard. Play it like every game like it's your last game. And you will respect that, and you will get respect by your teammates. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, the respect you have from your teammates. So I think that respecting coaches, your parents, your peers, but going out each and every day and playing hard and doing it the right way, play the game the right day, respect the game is the most important thing.
Excellent. Yeah, sounds familiar. But you were coached by, my dad was coached by the same coaches, so just that old school.
Just the right way to go about it.
It's the right way to do things, and I think, like you said, people are just, well, what's this guy think? What's this guy think? What's this guy think? Rather than, just trust the process and do what you do. And if you keep grinding and get better, then that's all that's going to happen, is you're going to get better.
I've seen some kids in they may be committed somewhere, or they may be going somewhere next year, and they're, I'll get to that when I get there. And I'm thinking like, well, that's just backwards, because when you get there, the guy that's there with you, he's already been there. You're going to be starting at zero, and he's already at, step 2. So I just want to make sure these kids here, it's a grind. As long as you're playing, you need to grind until the day you decide you don't want to play anymore.
Yeah,
like you said, you're looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, that's the truth of the matter is be where your feet are. I mean, it's exactly what you need to do is get what needs to be done each and every day. Move on to the next step, but don't get too far ahead of yourself. I mean, like, you want to play on this travel team, or do you want to play on this travel team? You want to make sure that your foundation is set, that you're taking care of your body, that you're getting the right coaches, that you're doing well in school to have that opportunity when that time does come. There's so many different factors are involved in this, and I think that the respect factor you have for your family, your coaches, is the biggest thing, and it's just to be grounded, man. I mean, get after it, and then when you have that opportunity, go do it. Go play. I mean, get out there and play. Don't get caught sitting inside. I mean, I truly, to this day, give all the credit in the world to my father, who took me out to the old Biden field before my my Little League games and we hit in the batting cage, or the wiffle ball games that we had on the Saturday and Sunday afternoons, or each day when we came home from school, the slip and slides that I used to slide on to learn how to slide. And I mean, these little things, get out there and play. Find out what works for you. Get out there and play. Do it the right way. But, just stay grounded and respect the game is the most important thing.
It's good stuff, man. I hope everybody gets to get on this episode, man. This was it went by fast. They seem to be going by faster and faster every time we do it. But I appreciate you coming and joining us. And Chad, anything?
No, I mean, I've known you forever. You were doing those camps at Clovis when I was a little kid. So I think you gave my brother his first infield glove. I still remember it's my favorite glove to this day. It's a Rawlings with the T-Web.
Pro 1008. So I'll never forget it, the T-Web.
It was and that's the best web. I love that web. But I still remember that from that day. And I still, every time walking to Coach Scott's office, he's got the picture of you turning the double play where you're in the air. So
there's so much.
Bring back a lot of memories. And like I said, I didn't even know if you still lived here anymore. So I'm glad that I know.
This has been great.
You just know where to hide.
There's the baseball in the Valley is just it's so fantastic. There's so many good baseball people here that the list we could sit here all night and tell you about. I mean, these coaches that came up, not only Merv Carter, at McLane, you had Patrick at Clovis High and the late Stan Bledsoe and Mr. Pappy at Fresno High. I can go on forever, and Hal Froze, and I mean, it just Mike Noakes. But these guys respected not only their team and their players, but they knew talent when they saw it from each and every school, and that's what makes just the pride of the Valley. I mean, it's not a statement that's oversaid. It's truly the pride of the Valley, and this is you go up and down the list, man. There's a ton of ball players and a ton of great ball players that came from this Valley, and it's a credit to the coaches that we've had.
Absolutely.
And how we're trying to pass it on now, and if we can keep doing that, I think we'll keep the great ball players in the state of California in the Valley, because we have the upbringing here to do it. So thank you guys.
No, I appreciate it. Well, that's episode 28, Hit.OR.DIE podcast. I'm going to try to get this out this week. So if you do get
Where are you going to? It's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Thanksgiving. Okay. We'll get it out before Thanksgiving.
We'll try. If not, it'll be Monday.
Yeah, it'll be a week. We don't do the dates on here, so it's always...
I know. People don't even know what day it is that we're doing it.
We'll try to get it on before Thanksgiving. So if it is, then happy Thanksgiving. I was going to look at
my watch. Today is the 25th. Just letting you know.
But anyway, thanks everybody for listening. It'll be on Spreaker, iTunes, Spotify.
Video on YouTube.
We'll post your pitching debut on YouTube. And we just thank everybody for listening. That's episode 28 of the Hit.OR.DIE podcast.
Hit or Die.